Who is this giant's greatest adversary? Why does this small animal hide a big secret? And what makes great whites seem small fry? Find out why size matters in raw nature. In the wild, size makes a big difference. And not just at the extreme ends of the scale. The way animals are built can seem bizarre. To get things in proportion takes clues from the present and the past. Even the most unlikely creatures have some very tall tales to tell. At 5 or 6 meters, giraffes tower above all other animals. A third of that height is neck, a quarter of a ton of muscle supported by just 7 bones, exactly the same number of vertebrae as us. Each leg is close to 2 meters long, with hooves the size of dinner plates. To keep all this going takes 55-litre lungs and a heart 2/3 of a metre wide. Even baby giraffes are big. They have to be. 2 meters is just tall enough to reach their mother's milk. But giraffes aren't just freaks standing head and shoulders above the crowd. They have a fascinating story to tell. They're so outsized, they need help to get themselves clean. How did evolution create such an extraordinary animal? One theory says it was predation. Their immense size deters carnivores. Giraffes are so big that they don't really need to hide. In fact, their feet can be used as offensive weapons. One powerful kick from the front legs can kill a lion. Only young or sick giraffes are at risk. But this theory doesn't explain the giraffe's bizarre proportions. Its diet provides a better explanation for the long neck and legs. Acacia trees are the giraffe's favorite food and the oldest of its adversaries. Their shape is designed to stop browsers. Many of them just can't reach the best shoots, and thorns are a formidable barrier. But the giraffe gets round them with an especially tough mouth, puncture-proof lips, and a tongue with a 20-centimetre reach. So even though the acacia puts toxins called tannins into branches that are overgrazed, the giraffe can always move on to newer, tastier leaves elsewhere. There's no doubt that a giraffe's height is a real advantage when it comes to food. But it's probably not the complete explanation for its very long neck. because a female's neck tends to be 2/3 of a meter shorter than a male's. If being able to forage higher and higher were the only reason for this most distinctive feature, females and giraffes would have become extinct. It seems there's one other possible explanation, and it's to do with battles between giraffes themselves. Males roam freely, trying to mate with as many females as they can. To size each other up, they engage in ritualized necking. The bigger the neck, the more chance a male has of defeating his rivals and winning a mate. Bloodthirsty predators, aggressive plants, enemies within. But which of these reasons got the giraffe's neck and legs growing in the first place? The jury's still out. Nobody's ever found a fossil of an in-between sized giraffe to give us a clue. Although this savanna giant is a very familiar figure, the reasons it looks like this are still out of our reach. Giraffes are big-time browsers, but animals needn't be the height of a house to make their mark on an acacia. Quick, agile, more vertebrae than the giraffe, but a 20th of the height, bush hyraxes are the unsung gardeners of Africa's savanna. They adore acacia shoots, and at only 2 kilograms, they're plenty nimble enough to get them. Again and again. Each mouthful may be small, but the nibbles add up, and frequent visits change the shape of trees. It's not just the giant impact these rabbit-sized browsers have on acacias that makes them impressive, because it turns out the little hyrax is hiding a big secret. To find out why, you have to look very closely. Foot bone structure, skull shape, tooth arrangement, a gestation period 7 times longer than other mammals of similar size, and well-developed young at birth. Where does the hyrax get these odd characteristics? It can't have adapted them from other hoof-plane animals. Its ancestors much older, and the anatomy just doesn't add up. In fact, the clue is that hyraxes used to be bigger, much bigger. 50 million years ago, giant hyraxes were the most common grazers on the African plains. Fossils show they were as big as hippos, but they're not descended from hippos. Hyraxes share a common ancestor with an even more unlikely animal, the elephant. Just like the hyrax, it's got a long gestation period, gives birth to well-developed young, and shares similar anatomical features. So although at first glance, elephant and hyrax look so completely different, they're in fact each other's closest living relatives on land. Big hyrax were outcompeted by hoofed mammals like antelope. Only the small ones remained, confined to rocky outcrops and trees where they could take cover. Elephants went the opposite way. They grew so big, no animal could match them for munch power. An adult eats 200 kilograms of vegetation a day to fuel its 4-ton bulldozer-sized body. They're so big, no carnivore dares touch them. The telescopic trunk is a neat solution to reaching as high as a gangly giraffe while keeping a compact body shape overall. But living up to being the largest land mammal has its downsides. Elephants are so big, they easily overheat. Unlike their closest relatives, it's not easy to find shade. Big bodies take a long time to cool down. That's why oversized ears act as blood-cooling radiators, and water is a godsend. Everything about an elephant is huge, but other animals feature just one outsized body part. Bat-eared foxes are aptly named. They're only half a meter high, but ears account for almost a third of that. So why do they have such big ears? Food is the key. Most members of the dog family catch mammals, but these feisty little foxes go for much smaller prey. Insects. They make up 80% of its diet. Bugs are very nutritious, but they're tiny. So bat-eared foxes must constantly forage. They need at least 3 square kilometers of desert to get their fill. Often, this territory is based around a colony of termites, their favorite food. It's exhausting work, but each snack doesn't last long. As night sets in, this female's off again. With ears cocked, she homes in on something moving beneath the soil. Swiveling her huge ears back and forth, she fixes the sound's exact position. Excavation is swift. Although bugs are the norm, bigger snacks are sometimes on its radar. But while her ears are super sensitive, her eyesight isn't that good. With her head down low, she's unaware this lioness is so close. Fortunately, the lioness is also distracted by a softer target. Leaving the vixen to keep her head down elsewhere. When not being stalked, bat-eared foxes' enormous ears are a practical solution to everyday life. But our next animal's headgear seems more of a hindrance than a help. Male caribou have highly improbable and impractical-looking antlers. At 1.5 meters long, they can be taller than the rest of their body and weigh nearly as much as the head. To be this impressive, antlers have to be a big deal for caribou, especially as they need so much energy elsewhere. They're constantly on the move, migrating up to 1,000 kilometers every year. Traveling this far with so much excess baggage doesn't seem to make sense. Why do they do it? Although both sexes have antlers, each has a very different use for them. Females are much shorter and are used as snow plows during winter when her calf has trouble grazing. But a male's antlers are used for sexual conquest. The longer they are, the more chance he has of winning a mate. Often, just displaying an enormous pair of antlers is enough to make a lesser male back down. Growing such outlandish headgear seems even more surprising when you consider what caribou live on. Lichen, almost exclusively. It has very little nutritious value and lacks calcium, antlers' main ingredient. So this mineral has to be robbed from the rest of the skeleton. Doing this once is tough on the body, but caribou do it again and again, shedding their antlers in autumn to regrow them in the spring. Although antlers seem an expensive handicap, they have a very particular purpose. If males can afford such large and extravagant displays, it shows they're in great health to win females. And they rarely have to lock horns to prove the point. As a last resort, caribou use their antlers to fight. But other animals' accessories seem to have no practical use whatsoever. African widder birds. Their outsized body part is totally for show. Only the males have this ridiculous adornment. Females are brown, nondescript, and much more ordinary looking. Males are black, and their tails can be half a meter long, as much as 2 or 3 times the rest of their body. This doesn't just make flight difficult, it leaves them vulnerable to disease too, as trailing feathers attract dirt and parasites. But it's worth being a fashion victim. Large tails are a big hit with the ladies. That's because a beautifully preened tail is hard to maintain. The slightest weakness or ill health will show in these feathers. So if a male can look good in spite of his handicap, there's an excellent chance he'll make a great father. Supersized features are even more intriguing when animals look like us. Proboscis monkeys are average-sized primates, but the male's nose is far from regular. This snout may seem comical or even grotesque by human standards, but the females of this species won't have their mates any other way. The nose takes time to develop. Young males hang about in bachelor groups until they've got the flesh to impress. So why the funny face? Is it just another frivolous fashion? Possibly not. The larger the snout, the bigger the core. A useful alarm when watching out for a harem spread across the Asian jungle. The bigger the racket, the better the protection. By choosing a male with a big nose, females get partners who are mature enough to make great security guards. Halfway around the world in the Amazonian rainforest, attacks come without warning. Visibility is restricted. Branches that provide cover can just as easily mask a predator that hunts all these creatures, big and small. The harpy, the largest eagle in the world. But isn't a dense, tangled forest a strange place for such a big bird to live? This magnificent raptor can be over 1 meter tall and weigh up to 9 kilos. That's at least twice the weight of any other eagle in the world. Yet, for its size, it has a remarkably short wingspan, just 2 meters from tip to tip. It doesn't need long wings. In the jungle, there's little use for high-soaring flight. Instead of length, a harpy's wings have depth. As it silently launches itself from a tree, its broad wings act like a parachute. To build up momentum for an attack, most eagles focus on speed, but there's little room to accelerate here. So the harpy relies on bulk to pack a deadly punch. On the whole, harpies are loners, only ever getting together to breed. Females are at least 1/3 larger than males, so they bring home the biggest prey. Tufts of head feathers funnel sounds into the ears, helping the eagle to pinpoint its victim before it leaves the perch. When stealth meets sloth, the results are deadly. Centimeter-long dagger-like talons penetrate flesh and kill the prey simultaneously. A female harpy is so strong that she can airlift a victim weighing as much as she does. Sloths make up 1/3 of their diet and are a welcome meal for a chick destined to become the biggest eagle in the world. When it comes to size versus aerodynamics, harpy eagles can't afford to compromise. But that's exactly what the next big bird's done. It has trouble even getting off the ground, let alone mastering the skies. Secretary birds are eagles, but they're unlikely ones. 1.5 meters high, heavy and gangly, it's a bad combination for liftoff. Flying has become a real big deal, so this bird spends most of its time grounded. Long, thin legs are an ungainly undercarriage, but they provide an excellent mobile vantage point among tall grasses. It walks with a purposeful gait, travelling up to 30 kilometers a day to find prey. It's looking for rodents, reptiles, and insects. And when it finds them, it starts to stamp. It flushes the prey out and kills it with violent blows. When the victims stop moving, it's swallowed whole. Tough, scaly legs resist snake bites, but just to be safe, well-aimed kicks break the snake's spine. A quick dispatch. But being preoccupied for too long can be dangerous. Luckily, a secretary bird's strong legs and flat feet are great for sprinting, often its best means of escape. But this jackal's persistent. That's when Plan B comes into play. If this secretary bird was any bigger, it might never have made it. Giving up flight would be suicidal for a bird here. Unless it's big, really big, like the ostrich. At 2.5 meters tall and weighing up to 180 kilograms, ostriches are the largest birds in the world. And with a 10-centimeter long claw on each foot and a powerful kick, they can kill a jackal. For the ostrich, extreme size wins over flight any day. Birds and mammals can control their body temperature, but reptiles are slaves to the sun. This is Australia's Perenti. At 2 meters long and 15 kilograms, this monitor is one of the biggest lizards in the world. The problem is, the larger it gets, the more warming up it takes. It's a slow start in the morning to get to its optimum temperature of 35 degrees. So scavenging is easier than pursuing prey. But after a good bask, this animal becomes a formidable killer. The voracious Perenti is in fact only a shadow of its ancestors, 8-meter-long sea monsters called mosasaurs. Modern life doesn't favor large monitors. It's warm-blooded mammals who are quicker off the mark that have become today's top predators. So it's no wonder that the biggest lizard in the world lives in a land that time forgot. Komodo Island, Indonesia. Home to a 3-meter, 70-kilogram beast. Big predatory mammals never reached here to steal this dragon's crown. So it's able to go about life at its own pace, part hunter, part scavenger. The confines of the island mean that prey has few places to hide. Before the Komodo dragons warmed up, there's an uneasy truce. But the magic of the sun brings out the awesome power of its ancestors. And the Komodo's ready to launch an attack. The only place that reptiles get bigger than the Komodo dragon is also out of bounds to many mammals: the water. A male saltwater crocodile can grow up to 7 meters in length and weigh half a ton. It's the largest, most dangerous reptile in the world. But out of the water, it's a poor mover. Its splayed legs can't support its bulk, and it's hopeless at hounding prey. Take a croc by surprise on land, and it's more likely to flee than attack. Land is for nesting, and that reptilian favorite, basking. Crocs are in no hurry. They go for months without eating. In their sluggish world, a slow metabolism gives them a big advantage over mammals who must hunt every day. They wait, and they wait, until the victim comes to them. The launch takes only seconds, an impressive move considering their size. After so much sun and rest, the energy explodes. Powerful jaws smash and tear the carcass into easily swallowed chunks. A scene of ambush from before the mammals, and even older than the dinosaurs. When hunting, monitor lizards and crocodiles rely on brawn. But there are other ways for reptiles to bring prey down. It's not the size of this one that's remarkable, but the power of its venom. This nighttime predator is ridiculously overarmed. It's a western taipan, the most venomous snake in the world. The 1.5 meter long body is fronted by fangs that deliver a 60-milligram shot of venom. Enough to kill several humans, and far, far more than it needs to paralyze a rat. Against rodents, this is complete overkill. But the supersized toxin may be more about defense than attack. When large marsupials roamed Australia, the threat of this snake's venom was vital to keep them away. Now rats are on the receiving end of that legacy. Their bodies are flooded with proteins that break down blood cells, knock out the nerves, and stop the heart. Fortunately, taipans rarely attack anything as big as a human, except when cornered. There's no point. Their meals are limited by the stretch of their jaws. The largest reptiles may have disappeared from our world, but taipans and their toxic kind ensure that snakes still command huge respect. The next snake may be small and lack venom, but it still uses chemicals to make up for its size. It's found in Canada, where it overwinters in limestone caves in vast numbers. Thousands emerge from hibernation every spring, just as the plains warm up. They're red-sided garter snakes, and the smaller, dowdier males are out first. At 800 grams, the females are nearly twice as heavy as the males, and there are fewer of them. Competition to mate is intense. As males are slight, physical combat is limited. They've gone for a more stealthy strategy. Garter snakes use pheromones to tell the difference between the sexes. Hundreds of males can be driven wild by a female's aroma. But not every male plays by the rules. This one is emitting female pheromones, fooling his rivals to flock to him. Then he cuts loose from the deception to find a female all for himself. Once mated, a copulatory plug keeps his sperm safe inside her and emits another chemical signal to keep competitors away. The bigger a female, the more eggs she can make. But for males, it's pheromones that carry the weight. Redback spiders also show remarkable differences between the sexes. Only females have a red hourglass marking on their backs. Their bite can kill a human. Skillful hunters, they trap prey in untidy, sticky webs. They're not big spiders, only 1 centimeter across, but they're still 60 times heavier than the male redback. The tiny males don't make webs. They perch on the fringe of a female's web, eating her leftovers and waiting for a chance to mate with her. Catching her at the wrong moment can be fatal. She could easily mistake him for prey. He manages to win her over, but he's still playing with fire. To secure her attention, he points his abdomen towards her jaws. Using 2 special mouth parts called palps, he transfers his sperm. Mid-delivery, his lover can barely contain her excitement. Before he has time to insert his second palp, she squirts digestive juices all over him. She's turning him from mate into meal. It's a terrible fate, but his deed is done, and the future of his genes is assured. The female stores sperm over several years, so each time she lays a batch of eggs, they've been fertilized by one of her tiny partners. Each of these sacs holds around 250 eggs, and she can produce a new batch every few weeks. The female redback is certainly much larger than her mate, but she's a lot smaller than some of her relatives. If you want to see a really big spider, head for Trinidad. The metallic pink-toe tarantula is bulky, 12 centimeters across. It doesn't weave a web. Instead, it uses silk to make a camouflaged home. Like all spiders, it has a hard outer casing called an exoskeleton. These protruding hairs sense the vibrations of approaching insects. Perfect for timing an ambush. The exoskeleton works like a system of levers powered by muscles attached to its inner walls. The casing also supports the spider's primitive lungs and body cavities. It's an efficient setup, as the pinktoe demonstrates. But this isn't the world's largest tarantula. That award goes to the Goliath bird-eating spider. Weight 170 grams, width 25 centimeters. It's big, but why don't spiders get any bigger? Bad circulation is one reason. Their tissues are just bathed in blood and not directly fed by vessels. A larger body would mean not enough oxygen to go around. Then there are structural problems. With no bones for internal bracing, a large exoskeleton risks caving in. But there's one place that creatures with exoskeletons can grow bigger: underwater. Lobsters have no problem getting enough oxygen from the sea. They have 20 pairs of pale, feathery gills inside their shell and a special pump to fan water over them. These spiny lobsters can grow to 80 centimeters, but even larger ones can be vulnerable, so they gang together when they migrate for self-protection. Like all animals with exoskeletons, they continue to grow throughout their life, and this puts them in real danger. As a lobster's soft center grows, its shell becomes an ever-tightening corset. So it's eventually forced to shed its armor, a perilous moment. Free of the old shackles, it can grow 20% larger. The new exoskeleton quickly hardens, but it's only a few months before internal growth prompts the next costume change. Small young lobsters molt frequently, so they grow fast. Older, larger lobsters shed less often, but this is actually to their advantage. Out on the open seabed, a hard, spiky coat provides vital defense. Having sized it up, this turtle decides to wait for a softer option. But these triggerfishes aren't so easily deterred. Their strong jaws and teeth can defeat the best suit of armor. If a lobster manages to escape predation, molt after molt, year after year, it can live to a ripe old age. The largest on record was estimated at 100 years old. It weighed a staggering 20 kilos and was about a meter long. But such success is rare. If you want to hit the big time, it's best not to rely on an exoskeleton. To make a huge impression, you need an internal skeleton. And it's best to live underwater, where there's great support for size. The ocean takes up 70% of the world's surface and contains 1,260 million trillion litres of water. So there's plenty of room for the largest carnivorous fish on the planet. 6.4 meters in length. Stood on end, it would be 4 times taller than an average man. The great white shark. Like all other large carnivores, they have an efficient range of senses: Used in sequence, each helps the shark home in like a guided missile. The scent of blood and other body fluids draw a shark towards prey up to 1 kilometre off. Within about 25 metres, a great white's eyesight takes over. Electrical pulses emitted from the prey also give the game away. A great white's torpedo-shaped body is packed with power. Enormous bursts of energy come straight from specially designed muscles that drive its tail. It strikes with tremendous force, knocking a seal right out of the water. (3,007 centimetre long serrated teeth pulverize prey in seconds. But these jaws haven't always been the biggest. There was once a killer 4 times the size, the Tyrannosaurus Rex of the ocean. To meet this monster, we must go back more than 2 million years. Humpback whales are one of the largest mammals that ever lived. But back then, they were an ideal meal for an ancient shark. Megalodon, a truly gigantic killer. It ate anything it could get its 2-metre wide jaw around. Even great whites. At 15 metres and 25 tons, Megalodon left a trail of destruction in its wake. Great whites were completely outgunned, but they did have one advantage. Their muscles help warm their blood, something rare among sharks. And this is why they outlived the giant monster's reign of terror. Cold-blooded Megalodon ruled everywhere except the freezing waters around the poles, which provided a refuge for the great whites. The Ice Ages wiped out Megalodon, so with it gone, the great white's fiery belly served it well. It can now claim the award for being the biggest carnivorous shark in the ocean.